on Cabinet confidentiality. And yet the appropriate piece from the programme for government says we will radically overhaul the way Irish politics and government work. The failures of the political system over the past decade were a key contributor to the financial crisis, and the system must now learn these lessons urgently. Government is too centralised and unaccountable. We believe there must also be a real shift in power from the state to the citizen, and we will legislate on the issue of Cabinet confidentiality. You also, in reply to Dr. Martin, said, well, really your intention wasn't to remove this, when it's clear from the preceding paragraphs that that was the intention, because you're going to overhaul the way politics work, you're going to overhaul the way government works, the failures of the past, and so on and so forth. Now, the banking inquiry is underway, and there are good bits in it, that ministers and papers which ministers relied on are compellable, and that they're not subject to Cabinet confidentiality, and we've seen individuals questioned on decisions made by them, and that's all to be welcomed. But because some of the information, particularly around the 2008 meeting, during which the crucial decision on the banking guarantee was made, that's off limits. That's off limits because of Cabinet confidentiality. So the citizens of this state who are saddled with a debt which they did not incur are being denied potentially important information. And that's, in my opinion, one of the reasons why you had this piece in the programme for government. Now, if it was at the behest of the Labour Party, then one could say they were very naive and so on and so forth. Who knows? They rolled over on all the other commitments that they made. But I can only conjecture from what you were saying, and you said it was good intentions, and the road to hell, as you know, is paved with good intentions. I can only see this as one, it's a pot rabbit promise. It's not a serious commitment in the programme for government. So could you explain to the Dáil what exactly is the purpose of commitments in the programme for government, and an unambiguous commitment to legislate on the issue of Cabinet confidentiality, when you can come in here sometime later and simply say, I have no plans to legislate on this matter?
Thank you. And Taoiseach.
Well, you spoke about clarity. If the intention was to remove the constitutional provision on Cabinet confidentiality, the insertion into the programme for government would have said the government will hold a referendum on the abolition of the article concerned. That's what it would have said. Yeah. So what the programme for government, when the discussions were taking place about the government to be put together on its programme, one of the issues that was put in there was to legislate for Cabinet confidentiality. As you're aware, under 28.4.3, it's already in there, and that's the highest legal edifice we have in the country is our constitution. So it's already in there. So as I said to Deputy Martin, the government are not proceeding with that particular element of the programme for government. I would say to you that you made a comment about a particular deputy. The programme for government was an agreed position on a range of areas between the two parties, and I don't agree with you that this was the work of any one particular deputy. So you might withdraw your reference to Deputy Rabbit when you're replying next. You mentioned about the banking inquiry, and the issues being addressed by the banking inquiry are of great importance to the public, and the Department of the Taoiseach will cooperate fully with the inquiry. And it will. I can assure you that the Department intend to provide the Joint Committee with as much information as is lawfully permitted, with as few redactions as possible. In responding to requests from the banking inquiry, my department, the Department of the Taoiseach, has to have regard to the law, and Cabinet confidentiality as you're now aware, is a fundamental principle in our system of government, and 28.4.3 provides for that, except in very limited circumstances which do not include the banking inquiries legislation. So it's likely, Deputy Adams, that some records may have to be withheld or redacted in order to ensure that the constitutional provisions regarding cabinet confidentiality are actually adhered to. So the Department of the Taoiseach will liaise very closely with the Office of the Attorney-General regarding any requests that come from the Banking Inquiry Committee, with a view to ensuring that as much transparency as is possible is provided, and therefore it's far too early to draw any conclusions as to whether provisions on cabinet confidentiality will provide, a serious impediment to the work of the inquiry or not. But let me assure you that the Department of the Taoiseach will be as open as possible to any requests that come from the banking inquiry.
Thank you. Deputy Joe Higgins.
Well,